Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about the difference between calculated column and a measure in Power BI. This is the most asked interview question whenever you go for a Power BI interview. So by the end of this video, you will be able to identify the differences between a calculated column and a measure. So let's see one by one what are the differences. The first one is calculation timing. Calculation timing means when the calculation is performed. For example, when we create a calculated column, it will be calculated when data is refreshed, and the calculation is done right away when we create a calculated column. Whereas a measure, it is calculated on demand, which means it will be calculated when we add the measure to a visual. If we do not add a measure to the visual, it will not implement the calculation, but it just stores the formula that we write. Next one is storage. The calculated column is stored in memory and it increases the model size, whereas a measure is not stored and it is computed at runtime. The calculated column automatically has row context because when we create a calculated column, the calculations are performed row by row, whereas a measure doesn't have automatic context and it generally use calculate for context. The calculated column doesn't respond to filter context because the calculations are performed row by row, whereas a measure will respond to the filter context. So that is why we use measures generally in the visuals so that it filters automatically based on the visual that we choose and how we filter the visual. Let's see some use cases for calculated column and measure. Generally, calculated column are static calculations and it is row by row operation. Once we create the calculated column, it will be similar to other columns in our table. So we can do all sort of things like sorting, filtering, and grouping. Whereas a measure is generally used for aggregations. So aggregations like sum, minimum, maximum, and count, we can do all sorts of aggregations using measure, and it is used for dynamic calculations. Generally, the measures are used for creating KPIs. KPIs means key performance indicators, and it is used for writing complex tax formulas. If we look at the performance impact, the calculated column will impact the model size because it will be part of our model. As we create a calculated column, it will be added as a new column in our table, and due to that, it will take more time to refresh because it has to perform the calculations based on the row context, whereas a measure has minimal impact on the model size. And it may affect query performance if the DAX formulas are too complex. It will take time to execute those queries. A calculated column will be shown as a new column in the table, whereas a measure is listed in the measure list and it is not visible in the table view. Let's see the visualization usage. It can be used in rows, columns, and filters. So the calculated column is similar to any other column in the table, so we can use it in rows, columns, and filters in our visuals. But a measure can only be used in values area in the visuals. Since measures are aggregations, generally they are single values, so they cannot be used as columns. Calculated column can be used as slicer because it acts as any other column after creating the calculated column. But a measure cannot be used as a slicer because it is a single value. So these are the main differences between a calculated column and a measure. I hope you find this useful. That is all in this video. I will see you in the next one.